here's my 68 GTO. I just took a quick video of it, and we went to a car show today down in Dade City. The guy who runs the car show, his name's Ronnie Setzer. Believe it or not, when I was a little kid, and I mean like 3 and 4 years old, I used to go to his car shows down in Tampa with my parents. And he's still doing shows, and I took my daughter out there today. Some of the shots you see, there's a 55 Chevy in it. That 55 Chevy is my dad's. I will do a video on it someday. That car, he's had that since 91 or 92. He's the second owner on that 55 Chevy. So he doesn't think he'll ever get rid of it. I don't think he will either. We tend to keep things a long time. Like I said, at this point, I've had this car 10 or 11 years. It is actually my wife's favorite car that I own. She told me I better never get rid of it. But yeah, I mean, here it is. I'll go ahead and fire it up. I'll get a idle video for those of you who want to hear it instead of me. Like I said, it's just a thumper cam and a little bit of head work. That's about it. So. 1968 Pontiac GTO, 400 automatic, basically all original. The only thing that's ever been changed on this car is the actual colors itself. It was originally like a real pretty blue. I forget the name of the blue. It's like a light baby blue, and it had a matching interior with the vinyl top from the factory. And somewhere along the line, the car was painted to what you see now, and the interior was switched to black. My uncle had this car for quite some time, and then, believe it or not, my dad had bought it, and he had it for a few years. The week after we got it, we actually took the engine apart. It wasn't running right, tended to overheat, and everything we tried externally did not fix any of the issues we were having, and it was using up some oil. So we dug into the engine, and we'd only had the car a couple weeks, and in that short period of time of getting the engine apart, we determined why, because it had 3 different types of pistons in it. Somebody had slapped the motor together and basically put it in there, but it was the numbers matching engine, numbers matching trans, numbers matching rear end, pretty much everything that it came with in 1968. The cool thing about this car is I had a 71 Chevelle in high school. It's very similar. It's very comfortable. The whole family can ride in it, and believe it or not, the car actually has air conditioning. I parked the car for some time while I was working on some other stuff, but it is a factory AC car, and when it was working just fine, it was not that bad. It wasn't the greatest. It's not like a modern car by any stretch, but the AC did work well. And there was a time in my life when I got this car that I was actually daily driving it. So I got the car 2011, 2012, one of those years, and I actually daily drove the car in 2013 and 2014. It was horrible on gas, and I was building my 99 Camaro, and I had a motorcycle I rode on days that it was nice, and I drove this, which wasn't far-fetched for me because my very first car was a 72 Chevelle, and I never really got to drive that car. So I ended up with a 71 Chevelle, and I daily drove that car for years. Then I ended up with my 67 Camaro in the early 2000s, and I basically never quit driving classic cars up until I had a family. So most of my early 20s, I didn't drive anything with air conditioning or with great gas mileage. This car, like I said, still has a turbo 400. It's a factory trans. Because it was an air-conditioned car, you got a lower rear gear. However, it is a true GTO ram air. If I'm not mistaken, it is a true HO car too. I forget what the paperwork said. It's been years since I've looked at the paperwork, but it is an HO car. Power antenna. Some of the things that I forget about is stuff like that. That power antenna, they had a great looking hood on them, and I'm gonna actually pop the hood and get a view under there. And there it is, 400. It has a thumper cam in it. It's not very fast. It's nice to drive, but for its age and its weight, it's pretty quick. But compared to modern day standards, it's not the fastest thing in the world. The interior is in great shape. It is a hurst, his and hers shifter from the factory. Pretty cool shifter. I'll get a video of how that works. But yeah, I mean, I've never had an issue with this car. The only thing I ever had go wrong in the whole time that I owned it was one day I ran into a friend of mine in town. I made a U-turn, and when I made the U-turn, I nailed it to kind of spin the car around. And yeah, in doing so, the motor basically kind of torqued over and pinched my transmission line between the header and the A-arm. The headers I have on this car are pretty big. They're old, so they're probably, they're not engineered as tough as, engineered as tight as some of today's headers, but This was the only issue I've ever had. It pinched that transmission line, put a hole in it. I actually made it home. I was only 2 miles away, smoking like crazy, and ended up putting a new line on it, and that was it. The only other thing I can really complain about the car is if it sits for any period of time, it takes a bit to get it started. This car is very cold-natured. It has been. I've had different carburetors on there. For some reason, it's just how this car is. I like to think the cars somewhat have a personality of their own. This one's always just been dependable, and the headlights do work. For some reason that one sits a little bit higher. I'll have to adjust that, but you open the headlights, they work fine. You close them. This one on the passenger side still gets a little bit lazy from time to time, but if you're driving it, there's enough vacuum to keep them closed because they are vacuum operated.